Welcome to webinar 5 in the series of 8 that we planned here at DE. Just before Easter, the tech unfortunately deserted us, and so we're recording again. And I'd love to welcome Philip Lavery from Mount St Michael's Primary School in Randalstown. Philip is going to talk about oral reading fluency, and he's been on this journey a little while. We've known each other a couple of years now. And so, Philip, I'm going to give you the floor, and afterwards I have some questions to ask you. So nothing too difficult, because you've all of this experience with oral reading fluency. So, Philip, if you want to take over, and I'll see you on the other side.
Thank you, Geraldine. Good morning, everybody. I had written down afternoon, but now we've changed the time frame. Listen, thank you for taking time to join us as we explore the fluency journey that our school, Mount St Michael's in Randalstown, has been on for the last few years. I feel that by adopting this and other aspects of the science of reading, the teaching and learning in Mount St Michael's has evolved, and outcomes and pupil engagement have improved. So this presentation is a mixture of a little bit of theory, the why we went down the fluency route, and the practice, how we do it. There are countless approaches and ways and methods and strategies for delivering oral reading fluency, and what follows are just a sample of some of the strategies that we have found useful and the children have enjoyed and learnt from in our experience. So just very briefly, a little bit about me. So I'm the VP in Mount St Michael's and Literacy Coordinator. I have been teaching since 1990. And like just a wee slide here to know there's this whole balance between the real world and then the school world. So in school I'm responsible for literacy, drama, well-being, child protection, all that, and then have fingers in lots of other pies. But above all, at the moment, I'm trying to open these new approaches that lead to opportunities for our pupils and teachers in regards to the science of reading. And so far, our adoption and our experiences of science of reading, to me, has proved to be a risk that is benefiting our pupils and engaging our teachers. And what I would say is that my recent engagement, and you'll see when I started very shortly, my recent engagement with ORF and the whole science of reading movement has actually revitalized me as a teacher and increased my enthusiasm, or renewed my enthusiasm for the job, and actually confirmed some of the ideals and values that I had in regards to how we teach children that kind of maybe had slipped over the years. So like, I can only recommend this from my own experience, but it has been enlightening for me and affirming. So Mount St Michael's, we have 2 form entry, we have 369 pupils. As you can see, we have a relatively small number of school meals, and we have a reduced number of newcomer children. Actually, really since Brexit, that number was a lot higher. We're very much a value-driven school, and we are also a member and a founding member of an educational partnership called Antrim and Randalstown Schools Moving Forward Together, or commonly known as MFT. And just on that point, I have found, particularly as I jumped into the science of reading, oral reading fluency, whole class guided reading, which one of our colleagues, Jamie Parker from Greystone, touched on a few weeks ago. The ability to collaborate with colleagues and share expertise and experiences has been invaluable as we've adopted and adapted how we teach to be more compatible with the science of reading. So, and also just for myself to take a little pause and recognize the support and trust from our school staff and the leadership in the school for their willingness to jump on the science of learning and fluency bus over the last few years. So thank you to everybody in Mount St Michael's for that. The science also supported and eventually has guided the ongoing work in the school to rationalize our teaching of phonics in foundation stage as well. So and why has this been the case? And for me, it's quite simple. When I approached staff about incorporating oral reading fluency and aspects of science of reading into our teaching of literacy, it wasn't seen as my idea, but I was able to couch it in in research, academic study that has been done, albeit mostly in the United States. But the more we delved into this, the more we recognized how this was approach that could enhance learning and teaching, and above all, support our endeavours with whole class guided reading and the development of pupil engagement. And I'm just going to come on to kind of where we were when we started. So um, pre-COVID, we're always looking for answers. We got to a stage where we were looking for a new scheme with an old battered Collins focus on literacy, and was looking to replace it and couldn't really find anything to do so. We had then recently moved to whole class guided reading, and hands up on that one. That was a logistic issue as much as anything else, because we found dealing with numerous reading groups in large classes quite challenging from a point of view of preparation, and as well as from the point of view of what actual learning with the children getting out of those texts. So those were two issues that we had, and always we're looking to improve our PTE scores, and so to do so, we were looking to maybe to do things differently, and overarching everything is the desire for all our pupils to have the best educational experience possible. And as I said just previously, we had looked at other schemes, but that was kind of the same thing, a comprehension text, questions, all that. And we wanted to not do the same thing differently, but let's try and look at a completely different approach. And my first step on that journey was taking part in a CPD that was facilitated by Geraldine, Faltering to Flowing, in July 2021. And it was I can remember it clearly. It was a lovely sunny July morning, and I hadn't ever taken time to think about fluency other than children reading without mistakes. And the more I listened to Geraldine and the science that she was using to back up the argument she was making for fluency, it became really clear to me that this was a different approach, but one that could actually benefit not only our pupils, but actually enhance how we would deliver whole class guided reading in our classes from primary, at that point in time, from primary 5 to primary 7. So I willingly went down the science of reading rabbit hole, immersed myself in the research, and decided that this is a path that we kind of had to follow. So what does the research say? So we come across this guy, Tim Rosinski, a lot. He is one of the gurus, I think, for oral reading fluency. And, it's not, so for him, it's the ability to read accurately, quickly, expressively, with good phrasing and good comprehension. It was then that definition was probably enhanced a bit by saying reasonably accurate reading at an appropriate rate with suitable expression or prosody that leads to accurate and deep comprehension and the motivation to read. And that final one, to me, is so important. The children need to feel motivated to read, and that's not necessarily large texts or novels. We do that, but aspects of fluency, as you'll see as we move on, that are short, sharp, and very engaging. Lots of fun, hopefully, as well. That really motivate and engage the children with their learning and with their reading. In fact, they don't even know they're learning, if you ask me. So, a little boring bit from David Daidu, but it accurately kind of sums up the importance of children being fluent. So, in a sense, to summarize this paragraph, if children are engaged in slow reading, it's very effortful, and by the time they might get to the end of the sentence, because they're taking so much time to decode, they don't have time necessarily they don't have processing space to really understand what the passage, the sentence, the paragraph, whatever it might be, is actually telling them. The sentence may be understood in isolation, but by the time the reader reaches the end of the paragraph, the beginning of that understanding and the beginning of the sentence start to fade. So fluency acts, as David would say, as a gatekeeper. And obviously we need to have good word recognition, and that's why in school we are revising and implementing phonics. to make sure that the children have that code and the key to get in. But reading comprehension will lag behind if they're spending too much time. The reading comprehension will lag behind their listening comprehension because the slow decoding, as he says, chokes everything. So what we're really looking for is children to develop their automaticity. You know, if you even think yourself when you're learning to drive, you know, you have to be very thoughtful about everything you do. But now, if you are a little older and you've passed your test and you've been driving for a few years, a lot of the aspects of driving become a lot easier. And when you move, if you do, to an automatic car, it takes away a lot of that other load of processing, changing gears, even thinking about handbrakes, all that sort of stuff. So there's a if you can compare and contrast those two, the reading and maybe even driving, it when there's less to think on, you can focus maybe on the important thing about keeping the car on the road. In reading, it's the importance of understanding what the actual author is saying and how he's saying it, what language he's using. So again, this little slide is just to emphasize the importance of fluency and how disfluent reading, you know, is a hindrance to their understanding of what is being read. You know, this is the new research that has been coming out, and I did kind of wonder, why had I not thought of this before? Why did we not get this information when we were going through college? Well, for me, it was quite a long time ago. And, you know, I don't think we should dwell on why we didn't know this before. We know it now. And let's take advantage of the knowledge and the research that we have and the understanding that we have. You know, it's not necessarily a blame game. I think this is a wonderful way to encourage children to become fluent, comprehending readers. So let's go with it, I think. So why fluency? So it's a conscientious focus on fluency has been shown to improve reading standards. Expression, prosody, intonation, and phrasing just help the readers to comprehend, and contrasts again with poor, disfluent reading. So, you know, I know this is kind of the boring theory bit, but it's important to know why you're doing something. And if you go to a staff, it's not a case of saying, right, we're going to start to do oral reading fluency. It's important to give we give our staff, our parents, and our pupils the why. Okay, so this last few slides have been very much about the why. You know, if we look at some of the infographics that have been floating about over the last few years, you can see where fluency sits. You know, these are the 5 or 6 pillars of reading, and you can see fluency sitting in there in the middle. It's that kind of bridge between phonics, phonemic awareness, the decoding, and then becoming a fluent readers. I do like this particular image because it shows engagement at the end, and we need to engage our children in we need to make sure that they enjoy what they read. And I mean, in my opinion, when you enjoy something, you learn a lot more from it. So the good phonics instruction is vital, but we need to move beyond thinking that, you know, children being able to decode is them being effective readers or comprehenders. It's not. They need more challenge, and they need more opportunities to develop their reading skills, I think. This is Scarborough's Rope, and it was very affirming. I saw this the first time in July 21 with Geraldine, and the most recent place that I have seen it has actually been in our new literacy framework that has been launched in December. And to me, it's very affirming that this is where the department is moving. And this little diagram just kind of highlights yet again where oral reading fluency fits in this journey between children learning how to read, learning the code, and then becoming gradually skilled readers. And this is a process that doesn't actually necessarily end either, because, you know, they'll start to read more challenging texts. They'll need to be aware of more background knowledge. They'll need to be aware of understand greater vocabulary, language structure, verbal reason, all that. and there'll be words that they will find difficult to decode depending on what they do or what specialist area of reading they're involved in as they go on through secondary school and stuff. But the fluency is this bridge that's going to allow for greater comprehension, better understanding, and above all, skilled reading. So, how does this look in our classroom? So, over the years, this is kind of how we have started to implement our approaches to fluency. So the teacher, first of all, is the greatest resource for for modeling fluent reading in our classrooms. We encourage other activities. Again, this is particularly with our whole class guided reading, echo reading, choral reading, repeated reading, and repeated rereading. Sorry. We also like to give children an opportunity to perform either in class, to other classes, or maybe occasionally bring parents in. And it can be fluency in our school can be part of a reading lesson. It could be part of a warm-up to a reading or comprehension lesson. And these little activities, which I'll refer to as we move on, really enhance pupil engagement with the text and allow for a deeper understanding of the text. And you know, when the teacher is the model or other pupils are reading or they're reading together, what we're doing is we're allowing those children who maybe aren't just as fluent decoders as they should be or proficient at it, and we're letting their decoding load be carried by those who are slightly more fluent, and it brings them in. So there's an equality issue and an inclusivity issue element, sorry, to our whole class guided reading, and fluency allows some of our perhaps less able children in the point of view of decoding to actually engage in the text. So I'm just going to show you a few little videos of various different activities that we would do in school. This one is, and I hope it works, this one is from Charlotte's Web. So just to set the scene, Haley and Maya are going to do a little reading. And what we have done here is the Fern's mother, if you know the story, is very worried about Fern spending so much time in Zuckerman's barn with pigs and sheep and goats. And the fact that she's actually talking to pigs is a bit of a worry. So she has gone to Dr. Dorian, who is in the big armchair here at the minute. And what we did was I read it as a model. They have read it and reread it, and now this is kind of almost the performance element. So one child is the mother, and the other, Haley, is the doctor. Hopefully, this works. It didn't necessarily work so well when we tried this the first time. So, so they've read this text a few times, and what I would ask you to do is please listen out for the Henry Fussy, because Haley has really got into the character of the doctor here, actually, and the other lady very much the character of the mum. So hopefully this will play. Thank you.
Did she look well? Oh yes. Appetite's good? Oh yes, she's always hungry. Sleep well last night? Oh yes. Then don't worry. Do you think she'll ever start thinking about something besides pigs and sheep and geese and spiders? How old is Fern? She's 8. Well, I think she will always love animals, but I doubt that she spends her entire life in Homer Zuckerman's barn cellar. How about boys? Does she know any boys? She knows Henry Fussy. Henry Fussy. Remarkable. Well, I don't think you have anything to worry about.
And there we go. Two hymns, and they were not in the text, so she was just getting into the doctor's mind, I thought. And that was just coming from a whole class guided reading session. The next slide here is kind of an activity that we have developed. So we call it Fluency Friday, and it's a way for us to kind of focus on developing fluency within the classroom and exposing children to various different types of print. So there are aspects of problem solving, and there's a really opportunity again for them to practice their skills, and there's also an opportunity for them to perform. So I'll refer to shortly to whole class guided reading to practice fluency and those techniques, but these are kind of standalone aspects of it. So on a Friday, when we do read our novel, which we do, we don't take any time to do a comprehension or answer questions. There's some discussion, and it's just reading almost for enjoyment, but it allows us to get through the text as well. So Fluency Friday involves very, very little written work, and the children quite enjoy that. So one of the, I'll just go through some of the activities that we would use. So Tim Rosinski, who I mentioned earlier, he has developed these word ladders. Now, with a lot of the resources that I'm going to show this morning, we do need to be aware of Americanisms. But again, that's a talking and discussion point as well. So these are word ladders, and you can see they start with the word at the bottom. In this instance, hot, and then you have a clue and a hint, and you take the clues and the hints, and you get to the letter at the top. So this actually kind of focuses on both sides of the rope. So there's a knowledge of vocabulary, there's an understanding of the hints, but also some of the clues will look at vowels and first letters, and they'll break it up like that. So there's a series of clues and hints from the bottom to the top of the ladder. We can do these either individually or in pairs or a whole class. It's entirely the teacher's choice how you wish to do that. But the children enjoy it, and we could easily get through 4 of these in about 10 minutes, and then that's including maybe some discussion on the words that they encounter and how there may be different meanings and whatever involved in it. So there's a lot of they can generate discussion from these. So the next activity is, we call this Fluent in 5, and you can see in the bottom left hand corner of the screen the website that we get this resource from. It's called Fred's Teaching, and personally speaking, I think it's a fabulous resource. But so what they do here is we put this up on a whiteboard, and children will have copy 1 between 2 at their table, and we'll possibly mix up the reading abilities. I, or the teacher, will model the reading. In this case, Mr. Gum. This is a text we would use early in primary 5, just to get them back into the way of understanding it again. So I will read it, maybe read it again, and we might discuss some of the words that are in it. Some words like lemonic bibber, which they don't need to know, but they'll maybe trip them up. And then you might have other words like terrified, which would be good, or scowling in this instance, which would be good to draw their attention to. So as I said, the children are in pairs. So A and B. A will read to B, and we will then ask B to give some feedback on how A has read. They only read for a minute, and then we'll swap over. So B reads to A, and A gives the feedback. And what we have done in school is we have developed this fluency feedback sheet. So the children are listening for expression, phrasing, smoothness, pace, and then they wish they can mark them. So in this instance, we are trying to encourage children not to say that their reading is good or he made no mistakes, but I want them to start to explain why it was good, and they're starting to encourage them. Again, this is for primary 5, primary 6. We want maybe slightly more detailed, and we don't use this all the time. We use this at the start as a scaffold, and then once the children have an idea and a grasp of the language, we don't necessarily need to use this sheet, although it is a good way of recording what they do. But we're looking at children to use the language of fluency correctly, highlights aspects of their partner's reading that they should be listening out for. So I was delighted one of our teachers came up with this sheet, which was fantastic. Once they've finished the reading, then there are these various different short, sharp questions, which could be done orally on a whiteboard. If you want to put it into the textbook, that is fine. It's really, really, really interesting, regardless of the level that we work at. And we do this from primary 3 right the way up now to primary 7. Very seldom do children get these. Certainly the retrieval questions are always correct, and because they have read or listened to the passage at least 3, possibly 4 times, they have a much greater understanding of the text, and their responses are very, very positive. So another aspect of our Fluency on Friday, but we also use this sometimes as a warm-up to ordinary reading lessons, is various activities from this book. Again, it's Tim Rosinski and Melissa Cheeseman. Tim seems to have a monopoly on Fluency materials at this moment in time, but they're very good. This has become kind of my Bible, and I know other teachers in other schools have been using this to try and support their development of fluency. So, as I said, there's echo reading and rereading that can be incorporated into reading lessons, but these are really standalone little fluency activities that the children enjoy. And the key to the whole thing is engagement. You can see strategies and text to engage readers. So that is what this does. So for example, there are a variety of activities. We look at jokes, text marking, and if I could just take a second to talk about that, this is where you get the children then to underline eventually when they come to a better understanding of it, understand where they're going to take a pause, where the pause is for a comma or a full stop, what they do with their voice when they read a question, and maybe underline a particular word for expression or sadness or whatever. So it's just getting them really to dig down deep into what that particular text, what that extract is about, and how they should be reading it. And by doing that, in my opinion, I mean, they're showing comprehension and understanding of the text, which is an excellent thing. So we will have tongue twisters, rhyme games, high frequency phrases, silly songs, poems, readers' theatre, and within all of this, there are opportunities for performance. And again, you could do some of these activities in 5 minutes. You could extend them 10, 15, entirely at the teacher's discretion. They're small, they're time efficient, they are very, very rich in oral language as well as in reading language. And I think the little statement at the bottom is really, really important. There are opportunities for children to experience success and affirmation in their reading. We're not really asking them to read long texts as well. The little video that I did show earlier is perhaps a kind of version of Reader's Theatre, where we take out narrator and the children just read the dialogue. You could do this as with plays, with poems. I'm very keen on poetry, and they can be done as in pairs or in groups as well, and allow them to allocate parts when they're doing their poems. So this is one of the jokes. I hope that you can hear it. So Tegan is about to tell you a joke. I think it is about me, but and I like this one because there was a sophistication on her play on words. So there is a skill to telling jokes, and that's why some people get paid lots of money for it, and others get laughed at instead of getting laughed with. So let's listen to Tegan. Hopefully you can hear this.
What do you call Mr. Lavery when he's so funny? Mr. Lavery.
All right, well, Tegan obviously found that one quite funny as well. But it was just a little play on words, Lavery and Laffrey, which I thought was quite good. This is another activity from the mega book. So these are called situational expressions. So as you can see, this young lady is very expressive anyway. But so the group, there are 5 at the table in this particular instance, have been given a phrase, and the phrase is, how much more do I have to read? But each individual child has been given, you might see it on the table, a short strip, and that indicates a word or emotion of how that phrase should be read or could be read. So you'll see the same phrase read in 5 different ways, and I stay on the video here, and they'll tell us how what their emotion was eventually. So hopefully this one works.
Can't hear that wee one, Philip.
Oh, sorry.
you were?
That's us.
Cat. Puzzle. Energetic.
Indeed, she was energetic.
There's more, Dad.
So, again, they're fun and they're really short, those little activities. So from the mega book, and I'm not sure if you can see this very clearly, and I might have copyright in this one as well. So from the mega book, what we have developed is this kind of I call it a draft program for fluency. So we want our children to experience these various different strategies and approaches through the course of 2 terms. And so it's based on the mega book. As I said before, there are some Americanisms in it that can be tricky, but overall, this has been a really positive addition to our literacy content. And a lot of teachers would use this as a kind of a warm up. So you might be able to see there silly songs to familiar tunes, poems for 2 or more. And we have this done by half term. Sorry, by in term 1 and term 2. Currently in term 3, we're experimenting now with poetry. So each class from primary 5 up has a set of poetry books, and we are kind of doing our Fluent in 5 as our warm up, but through the vehicle of poetry. And again, it's about encouraging fun, giving them a wee opportunity to experience poems that they may not necessarily do on a regular basis. The next slide is again has to do with poetry. I would collect lots of seasonal poems, copies of them for children in primary 1 right through to primary 7, and distribute them about. And over a 2-week period, the children would, in week 1, they would select the poem that they would like to read, either individually, in pairs, or in small groups. And in week 2, they'd be given an opportunity then to go around and kind of perform for a class or classes in the school. You can see the 3rd bullet point there, a poetry slam. So we would do this as well, probably at Halloween and Christmas, definitely. I'd like to do it more often. But we'd invite parents in to listen to their children read the poems that they have selected, the ones that they would like. And we try and encourage children to have a little bit of variety. But it's just about getting up on a stage. We'll have a microphone. We applaud them when they get up, and we applaud them when they get back down. They take a bow, and it's that opportunity of getting their voice out there. They do not have to learn them. It's not like a speech and drama festival. If they learn the poem and want to perform it, that's okay. But they can, and if they aren't confident going up on their own, they can have a partner to go with them, which is really good. We also try to give them an opportunity to select poems by various different poets as well. And just before we leave this slide, I'd just like to remind you of one of my favorite poems, which is Ode to a Goldfish, and it's by a guy called Alfred Lord Tennyson. And I suppose that sounds very old and complicated, but it just shows you how accessible poetry can be, because this poem is, yeah, that's all. Oh, wet pet, which is exactly what a goldfish is, I suppose. So there's a lot of fun and enjoyment to be had. So the next couple of slides are hopefully videos that you can hear of children who have gone around. I think these might be at Halloween time, and hopefully you can hear these. So these 3 girls were, I forget, this is a spooky witchy poem, and they just dropped into my office to say them. So the video quality may not be as good as I would hope, but let's see.
The sound's not working, unfortunately.
Sound's not working. Okay. So sorry, guys, the sound not one isn't working. So we'll move on and maybe be working on this one. I love this one because yes, those 3 girls were excellent and they read exceptionally well. But sorry, there's an inclusivity in this. So here we have a young child who very much struggling with reading, and maybe slightly maybe on the MLD aspect of things. So that did not exclude him from going around and saying his poem, and he had a lovely partner to help him. And hopefully you can hear this.
No, that stepped out as well,
Stepped
unfortunately.
out. Okay. so that obviously wasn't working. I don't think this one is working either, but it gives you an idea, even just the image. The children are on the stage. These are three boys in primary five who were doing a Christmas poem. We'll give it a shot and see if it does work. And if it doesn't, Lauren, just let me know.
No, unfortunately not.
No. So anyway, we'll leave that one. And uh, this is an opportunity. I think this one might not work either. So it is a young girl, and she is taking an opportunity to read an extract from The Witches. And again, this is a celebration event, and that their parents are in the audience. So let's see.
No, sadly not.
Sadly not. So apologies, folks. So just to say that when we do this, it creates a huge buzz in the school, and we have had our poetry slams with primary twos and primary threes, fours and fives. I would love to do a readers theatre event with our primary sixes, and our primary sevens do a school show, so I think that base is covered for them. But there's no learning of the poem; they're just reading, they're enjoying it, and then when they get the opportunity to either to go around classes or to do it with parents, there's a real positive energy of that and a real affirmation of them as well. So, yeah. So, just kind of heading towards a conclusion, just to say, has there been an impact? What is the impact? Um, well, our PTE scores since we started this journey post COVID have started to improve. Now, I think what this indicates is that we're moving in the right direction. We've also been looking at our phonics as well, so that may well have had a positive impact on things. And we have also adapted our whole class guided reading, and as I said, the approaches to phonics. So there are aspects of this that are fun and enjoyment and fun and games, but it's making a difference. We've moved away from kind of robotic reading to reading with understanding, children comprehending texts as they read it for those at the most proficient level. And while this has been a new approach to how we teach reading beyond just reading, understanding the code, um, our staff have embraced it, and we can also see benefit. We're continuously embedding new aspects of the science of reading, adding bits to the ORF, such as recognizing the importance of background knowledge, vocabulary, and exposing the children to a variety of texts. Our staff are really engaged in this as well. As you could see from one of the previous slides, someone had gone and made that grid for the children to do like a peer assessment on fluent reading as well. So, finally, these are some little statements. Jordan and I did a little bit of research in the early years of this. Contacted both, had engagement with teachers, pupils, and parents. And it was when you do something like this, it's really you can feel a little bit nervous as to what the parental response would be. So and the teacher response obviously as well. But our teachers love it, and I know one of them came to me and said, I really now feel like I'm actually teaching reading in primary five. This teacher was, so that was very, very affirming for me. And when we spoke to our parents again, they are they're very positive about it, and we have a number of stories of the child not wanting to be read to, but reading in bed at night or whatever it is, or when they're doing the reading at home. And we get stories of them putting on voices, using pauses, phrases, different volumes of voice, all that sort of stuff. And that's again really affirming. It's showing up where I think we're making a difference, and reading is becoming enjoying, and they want to do it. And the final statement at the bottom is to me the most empowering one. So this is a young guy in primary five when we were kind of introducing science of reading. I know, Geraldine, you met this chap, and he was really struggling with his reading, really struggling. And by the end of primary seven, you can see he says, I don't like to read, still don't like to do it, but now that I know that I can, I just think that's an exceptionally positive statement, that he has the confidence to know they can read. He mightn't want to do it very often, but he can, as opposed to a child who can't and sits at the back of the class. And this child, through the course of primary 5, really wanted to read out loud, and we encouraged him when the children were reading in class to take part. We maybe went and did a little pre-prep with him for a passage that he was going to read, and that just builds his self-confidence and also allows him to be a really full member of that class. So all I can say is that the journey with Fluency, science of reading, whole class guided reading, they're all kind of interlinked, has been and continues to be a very positive one for us in Mount St Michael's. So that's me finished for this morning. If you have any questions, please ask, or maybe something I know we're hosting a conference, MFT, on the next Wednesday, 29th of April. Some of you may be there, and we give you some practical experience and hands-on experience of some of the activities that we've kind of touched on today. Apologies that some of the videos didn't work, so maybe they'll work the next time. So thank you very much.